Eldritch Horror, or Haunted, by Zyla Sweetbean. Read by My Lost and Found. Summary. It was during this moment of peace that Todoroki decided to start a conflict that would divide Class 1A forever. From his spot perched atop a bed frame, Todoroki spoke up, without any warning of the verbal bomb he was about to drop. He said, "Midoriya is an Eldritch Horror." Or, 5 times Class 1A argued over Izuku being an Eldritch Horror or haunted, and +1 time they decided it didn't matter. Incident number 1. The topic was first broached after seat number 18, aka Midoriya Izuku, once again landed himself in Recovery Girl's office with a broken nose, twisted pinky, and bruised ribs. Since the only broken bone was the nose, and not shattered arms or legs, Recovery Girl simply sighed, downed an entire can of Diet Cola along with a handful of pills, and then got to work patching up Midoriya. Her quirk shouldn't have been enough to knock Izuku out, but apparently, and unsurprisingly, Midoriya had been staying up too late writing hero analysis. In this case, Midoriya pulled a reverse Sleeping Beauty, falling into a deep slumber after receiving a noisy kiss on the cheek. With Midoriya passed out and snoring softly, Recovery Girl had left, but Class 1A had decided to stick around. The common room hadn't been fixed after a disastrous incident with Sero's tape, Ashido's acid, and Kaminari's lightning, so everyone claimed spare beds or space on the floor as they took a much-needed break while waiting for Midoriya to wake up. During this moment of peace, Todoroki decided to start a conflict that would divide Class 1A forever. From his spot perched atop a bed frame, Todoroki spoke up, without any warning of the verbal bomb he was about to drop. He said, "Midoriya is an Eldritch Horror." Collectively, the class blinked. Each head turned to look at the sleeping Midoriya and then back at Todoroki. This wasn't the first time Todoroki had made odd statements, but this time it was so bizarre, and his demeanor so confident, that for a solid minute, no one had any words. Finally, Sero spoke up. "Midoriya's what now?" "An Eldritch Horror." No, I heard you the first time. I'm just trying to understand how the heck you got the idea that Izuku, Golden Sunshine Child, and All Might's favorite student. "Hey!" Mineta yelled. "It's true, though," Sato muttered. "Could possibly be what you call an Eldritch Horror." The class turned to look at Izuku, slumbering peacefully in bed. A ray of light, perfectly timed, streamed through the window, alighting around his head like a halo. "He's literally an angel," whispered Uraraka. Bakugo scoffed. "Literal pain is more like it." However, Todoroki did not back down. "Midoriya is an Eldritch Horror. He wields so much power it breaks his bones. When he activates his power, there's something so other about it that you just want to run away screaming." "Oh, thank goodness! I'm not the only one who almost peed themselves when Midoriya first lit up," Kaminari muttered. Todoroki continued. "He is a pure force of terrifying nature. His actions and motivations are beyond human comprehension." Ida chopped his hand. "I am fairly confident Midoriya's goal is to be an exemplary model of a hero." "To the point of self-destruction, to the destroying of his body and annihilation of his bones." "That's just Deku," Uraraka said. "That's who he is." "That's Midoriya being an Eldritch Horror." Sero scratched at his elbows, picking at a piece of jammed tape, and he said the words that introduced the second side of the Midoriya War. "I think you're missing the point. Izuku can't be an Eldritch being because he's already haunted." The scream of "What?" rattled the windows. Sero threw his hands in the air. It makes even more sense than being Eldritch. There's always a cold chill surrounding him, weird accidents, murmuring voices coming from him. Huh? That's the nerd's constant obnoxious mumbling. And when he uses his power, someone continued, he gives off a ghostly green glow. Idiots! You're all morons. How did you even get into UA with that low an IQ level? Bakugo yelled, throwing himself off the bed and stomping to the door. There is nothing remotely haunted or scary about the damn nerd, so just shut up already. Deku is an awkward weirdo. He always has been and always will be. Because he's haunted. Because he's an Eldritch Horror. The enraged yell and slammed door that followed registered as a minor earthquake several cities away. So, am I the only one who doesn't know what an Eldritch Horror is? It's like a big tentacled monster thing you can't look at without going insane. You're thinking of Cthulhu, and well, yes, that's not strictly accurate. Then what is it? It's like an other. Other? Yes, with a capital O. It's something alien and different and beyond understanding. It's like no animal or human or anything else you can quite understand. It's an abomination of limitless power, which a mere glimpse of can drive one insane. How do you even know this? I majored in English with a special emphasis on Lovecraftian horror. Excuse me, you lived in a cave in the woods. You were a hermit, and you have a degree when the rest of us don't? I tried to maintain a balanced lifestyle, and the internet does make completing a degree online possible. I'm not sure if I'm more surprised about this or Ninth's classmates thinking he's some Eldritch thingy. The degree. Definitely the degree. Incident number 2. The debate over haunted or eldritch would have died down, as most random 1A arguments did, if not for what happened 2 weeks later. Cementos had thankfully repaired the common room a couple of days ago, so when Class 1A, minus Izuku, who had stayed behind to talk to All Might, entered the stain-free, burn-free, smell-ish free common room, they were surprised to see Shinso standing in the living room, his face schooled in its standard mixture of boredom and exhaustion. Shinso had fallen for Midoriya's friendship attacks several months ago and had resigned himself to the ray of sunshine's blinding light. But he wasn't typically a fixture of the 1A dorm, especially when Izuku wasn't around. "Hey, Shinso!" Kaminari yelled, flashing 2 finger guns. "What you doing here?" "That means piss off, hero wannabe. You have your own dorm." Although I would love to not have to see your scowling face and your utter lack of manners, I ultimately answer to a higher authority. "And who's that?" Kaminari asked. "Aizawa." "Oh," the class collectively said. "Yeah, that makes sense," Uraraka said. "I must ask, why are you meeting with Mr. Aizawa?" Ida asked with the top of his hand. "Is it something we should be concerned about?" "Unless not being a busybody is an issue, then no." Ida flushed at the rebuke, but Kaminari leaned closer, whining. "Shinso, you have to tell us, man. The suspense is killing me." "Then perish." Kaminari fell to the ground in a dramatic heap. "So rude! Your rudeness has vanquished me." Yagurozu stepped forward, her hands clasped in front of her. "We are sorry to push, but we simply want to know if we should be expecting any of Aizawa's rational deceptions." The class shuddered, several turning green in the face. Finally, Shinso relented. "No, I'm only supposed to meet and discuss my quirk with him. That's all." "Oh, that makes sense," said Uraraka. "I hope it goes well." "Same." "Wait, random question while you're waiting for Aizawa," Kaminari said, pulling himself up off the carpet. "What is the weirdest thing that's ever happened with your quirk?" Shinso's face contorted, and the class thought he wouldn't share. But then his face turned slack. "I saw ghosts." Shinso deadpanned. "Ghosts?" Kaminari shrieked. "What? When?" Shinso sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. At the sports festival while fighting Midoriya. Midoriya? I managed to get him under my quirk, but then there was this strange energy and blurred figures surrounding him. I even saw one pick Midoriya's hand and force him to activate his quirk. Ghosts, Zero said with a mischievous grin. I told you guys he was haunted. The class broke into groans. No, not this again. I thought we were over this debate. What debate? Shinso asked, looking thoroughly confused. Todoroki here thinks Midoriya is some type of eldritch abomination horror whatever. Not think, Todoroki said. Is. Well, Zero argues that Midoriya is actually haunted. Shut up! They're all idiots. Tape Arms and Icy Hot especially. Deku is a boring, ugly nerd and... He's totally haunted, Shinso said, cutting off Bakugo's rant and ignoring the subsequent scream of rage. But, Shinso, Yaoyorozu interrupted, surely there are other explanations for what you saw. There's no reason he has to be. She paused, reluctant to say the word. Haunted? Yeah, being high on drugs or experiencing an end-of-life hallucination are the other explanations, Kaminari joked. No, Shinso said, shaking his head. I've never experienced anything like that before. Midoriya is haunted. Come on. He's gotta be pulling our leg. But what if he isn't? Ashido smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. I'm Team Haunted. Heck yeah, Zero said, giving her a high five. Why are you idiots making teams? There are no teams! Bakugo roared, palms popping dangerously. Uraraka gave Bakugo a look. I'm Team Eldritch, then. Deku is pretty powerful scary sometimes. Todoroki nodded his head. You have come to see the truth. Ooh, I want Team Eldritch too, Hagakure cheered. Haunted, said Kaminari. With the brightness of his soul comes the darkness of shadows. He is of the dark and eldritch, intoned Tokuyami. Haunted. Haunted all the way. I'd say eldritch. Shinso watched 1A argue and giggle over the teams, throwing around different viewpoints. They all appeared happy and mostly unserious, except for Todoroki. But they'd come to know soon enough. Shinso shook his head and slipped out of the common room to wait for Aizawa outside. Class 1A was joking right now, but hopefully they'd never realize how deadly serious Shinso was. A chill crept up his spine. Either Present Mike was planning one of his pop tests, or someone was thinking of Shinso. He shuddered. Knowing his luck, it was probably one of the ghosts. All right, did any of us realize that purple kid who looks like he stuck his finger in an electrical socket saw us? Any of us? No. Honestly, no. I was so worried about Toshi's kid losing, I didn't realize it. No. Really? Your quirk is literally danger sense. It takes away all the need to be observant. My quirk tells me what I need to know. Second, third, why didn't you guys say something? They were too busy staring at the wall, pouting that All for One's son is the 9th. Hey! I mean, it's probably fine. The class still thinks 9th might be an Eldritch Horror, so, are they really taking the haunted thing seriously? They're kids. They joke about this stuff, I think. Right? This is kid humor. You've been dead for over a century. Not sure you're at any point to be an expert on kids. Wow, way to be a letdown. It's fine. You don't age when you're dead, and with any luck, this whole thing will blow over. When have we had any luck? Incident number 3. Uraraka was of the opinion that the entire debate over Izuku being haunted or an Eldritch Horror abomination thingy was absolutely silly. Deku was kind, funny, thoughtful, ridiculously ripped. His arms were swoon-worthy. not that she had noticed. Had pretty nice hair, and an even better smile that made your heart jump. And, of course, he was a wonderful hero that anyone would give their left kidney to know or even be around. The point was, Deku was an amazing person. So amazing that it was hard to imagine anything particularly spooky or otherworldly about him. The class, however, thought the debate was hilarious. Uraraka had joined Team Eldritch simply to show solidarity with Todoroki, who was still learning to come out of his awkward shell and share things, even if they were completely capital B bananas. But you had to be at least a little bananas to be a hero, and Todoroki was good friends with Deku. Besides, there was something unbelievably enjoyable about watching the tick in Bakugo's jaw increase and his eyes bulge until they were about to pop out of the socket. Uraraka could tell that before UA, Bakugo thought he was all that. He deserved some messing with. However, as her classmates began to share experiences or spooky things they noticed, Uraraka began to wonder if there was something to their arguments. Jiro swore that sometimes she heard other voices speaking around Izuku. Shoji admitted that one time, Izuku's shadow had several other bodies branching off of it. And Ida admitted that when he first saw Izuku power up, he had been struck by an overwhelming need from the tiny animalistic part of his brain telling him to run away. The issue was, all three of those issues could be explained by either ghosts or being some type of Eldritch Horror. However, it wasn't until the Shie Hasaikai raid that Uraraka firmly entered Team Eldritch. Standing with Tsuyu and the other heroes on the sideline, Uraraka initially thought a shooting star was bursting over the city, but the crackling lightning that left her teeth vibrating was painfully familiar. "Deku!" she gasped as a glowing figure appeared in the sky, his oncoming punch blurring into thousands of descending fists preparing to unleash their punishment. Around her, heroes dropped to their knees, and several civilians alternated between praying and taking selfies with the oncoming destruction. Debris fell from the sky, and dark clouds swirled around. But Deku bared his teeth in a facsimile of a smile and rained down his justice. Upon defeating the villain, Deku collapsed into himself, but Overhaul appeared far worse off. The villain gibbered as he huddled in on himself, flinching as the heroes approached, and begging them to take him away from that thing playing hero. The rivers of tears Overhaul began crying when the heroes bound him and carried him away, made everyone there awkwardly look at the ground. Standing by Uraraka and Tsuyu, Aizawa watched paramedics hesitantly approach the sleeping Deku. "I should have expelled him when I had the chance," Aizawa muttered. "And risk unleashing him on the unknowing villain and civilian population?" A hero choked out. "No, please keep him for as long as possible." Okay, so, hear me out. What if we are an Eldritch Horror? I'm hearing you, and I already want to rip my ears off. Look, 9 is haunted. He's not an Eldritch thingy. We are literally haunting him. But what if he is? I mean, what if we are? What? Where are we? In a void. Yes, we are in a creepy, empty, swirly, half-formed hole of darkness and energy, and our literal quirk souls. Does that not seem at least a bit eldritch to you? But we're ghosts. Are we, though? And again, back to my point. Where are we? We are existing in a literal void. Holy tintinabulation, Batman. Yes, exactly. I think. You're in a void ball of wibbly-wobbly energy and spite and barely held together conscious sanity. Isn't that at least a little eldritchy? You're kind of right, and I want to cry. Who would have known the day would come? I'm having a midlife crisis at 120 years old. Welp, I wish I could die a second time. Incident number 4. By the time Izuku manifested Black Whip and destroyed half the training center in what was either an insane attack or a very poorly planned tentacle dance party, the argument was no longer if Izuku was normal, but what type of not normal. As Class 1B watched in horror, several members of 1A pulled out popcorn and started commenting on the attacks. Kaminari gestured at the giant screen. See? This is giving me classic Cthulhu vibes, you know? Black tentacles, mass destruction. Zero raised an eyebrow. Seriously? This could just be a manifestation of ghostly energy. Do you not see the green tint? What about ectoplasm? What? Are you kidding me? Todoroki nodded. He's beginning the metamorphosis into a creature from the beyond. If he was, the people in his presence would be going insane from mere proximity. Well, Uraraka seems to be, Ojiro said. She just jumped towards him. Ashido snickered. That's not insanity, but it is something very close to it. Kendo, who had been flitting about like a nervous mother hen, finally spoke up. Are none of you worried about what's happening? Class 1A collectively turned and shrugged. This is just Midoriya being Midoriya, Jiro said. At this point, the debate is more about if he's haunted or eldritch. What? Monoma yelled, throwing his head back. He pointed dramatically. Why does 1A get a supernatural student? Class 1B demands attention. Aizawa sighed, tilting his head back to administer eye drops. I would if I hadn't already promised several heroes that I would keep a close eye on him. They were quite worried about him being unleashed. Will all of you shut up about stupid Deku? He's an idiot, nothing more. Then how do you explain that? Jiro asked, pointing at the screen depicting the tentacles continuing to annihilate the training grounds. Bakugo ground his teeth. Puberty. So, I was thinking, always dangerous, what if we and Ninth are actually part of some eldritchy thingy? Would One for All be as well? That's actually a good point. I mean, if anyone would be a soul-sucking monstrosity intent on destroying everything, it would be him. But if he was, wouldn't he be too powerful for us to stop? Maybe he's like a mini Eldritch, an Eldritch in the making that hasn't quite reached its full potential to be an absolute monster and menace. Do you mean like a baby? A baby Eldritch? Are you implying that All for One, our absolute nemesis, the monster who has haunted the underworld for centuries now, is a baby Eldritch Horror? Yes. You called him a baby! He's a baby. A baby Eldritch. Oh my gosh. I am crying. I can't stop laughing. Oh my goodness. Mr. Cthulhu, but your baby is ugly. Put him in timeout for being bad. Baby. Bad baby All for One. Oh my gosh, please. If I can say that to his face, I will die happy. You're already dead. We know. But I don't care, 'cause he's a baby. Incident number 5. Class 1A should have seen the incident coming, and yet they did not. Class 1A, after weeks of begging an impassioned 50-page essay written by Midoriya and distributed to anyone who made contact, was finally allowed to attend the brand new Might Museum. Although all the class was excited to tour the museum, Midoriya had ascended past the realm of excitement and entered the stage of pre-combustion. It was like an unholy combination of an Energizer bunny that had chugged several energy drinks and a small child who had eaten their body weight in candy. On the bus ride over, the entire vehicle had vibrated from the force of Izuku's bouncing leg. Ida had opened his mouth to rebuke Izuku, but Izuku had evidently taken that as an excuse to vomit several decades worth of All Might facts onto Ida until the class president looked fairly traumatized. Getting off the bus, Ida stared blankly into the distance. "You all right there, Ida?" Uraraka asked.
I know more about All Might than I ever wanted to. Apparently his hair tastes faintly of strawberry due to the mighty brand shampoo he uses."
Ida rubbed his eyes.
"Excuse me, I need a moment."
From that point on, the trip did not get any better. While 1A was excited about the field trip, Izuku was manic. He flitted from exhibit to exhibit, frantically writing in his notebook. When the pages began to smoke from the force and speed Izuku was pressing on them, Yaoyorozu had decided to interfere before the notebook combusted. With a smile, she directed one of the museum tour guides towards Izuku. The hero student eyed the tour guide with a hungry gaze before launching into a rant on some of the inaccuracies of the displays. Less than 5 minutes later, the tour guide ran away sobbing. Izuku's chaos aside, the trip to the new All Might Museum was enjoyable. Until villains attacked. The first villain, the muscular man with a shark head, had burst through a display of rare All Might figurines, including ones of All Might as a unicorn and, ironically enough, a scuba diver. The shark villain laughed, smashing the figures underfoot with the carelessness of a shark not knowing they're about to be served as soup.
"Take that, All Might! So much for the #1 hero!"
Several other villains bust through the walls and ceiling, each taking out an All Might display with vicious delight.
"We're here to tear this museum to the ground,"
one of the villains declared.
"Destroy everything in sight."
An aura rippled around Izuku, flickering like a flame before exploding outward. Menace and bloodthirst dripped off him as Izuku lifted his head. His eyes glowed a sickening green as lightning crackled off him. Taking a step forward, the tiles crunched underneath his foot. "Tear down the museum," he whispered, mist beginning to pour off his skin onto the ground, creeping towards the villains, who were suddenly looking far less confident. Izuku's voice warped. For a moment, it sounded like many voices speaking in unison. "What do you think you're doing?" The result of the ensuing fight didn't require much explanation, other than it was less of a fight and more of an annihilation. Yaoyorozu and Ida attempted to step in at one point, but realized they were more likely to get destroyed than be of any help. So they, and the rest of 1A, watched on as Midoriya wreaked havoc. Sero turned towards the class. "So you know mist and various speaking voices is a haunted thing, right?" "Of course not," replied Todoroki. "It's evidence of his alternative dimension self leaking through."
"What? He is literally possessed!"
As the debate sparked anew, Suyu turned to Uraraka.
"Ribbit, you know, most of Midoriya's spooky things could either be from a haunting or eldritch creature. Ribbit, I'm not sure how we're supposed to determine which."
"Honestly, I've thought the same. Floating could be ghosts or breaking the laws of nature. His glow could be from ectoplasm or something else," Uraraka said.
"But will we ever know which?"
Ida said with the chop of his right hand, as Midoriya sent 3 villains flying through a hole in the ceiling. Uraraka shrugged. "I'm Team Eldritch, but I'm sure we'll reach a consensus eventually."
"Can you believe the nerve of those villains trying to wreck my Toshi's museum?" "Kids these days lost all respect for their elders. Please don't refer to us as elders."
Okay, but was 5 broken bones, 6 chipped teeth, and 3 hysterical villains the right response? We literally got all eldritchy thing right in their faces.
For the record, I do not stand by the term eldritchy. It is an ugly mess of an adjective.
Your comment is noted and dutifully ignored. Wait, hold on. Have we even decided if we are an Eldritch Horror abomination thingy?
I don't know.
I don't think so, but I vote yes.
I vote no. I'm tired of those kids calling my Blackwick tentacles.
They're not tentacles?
No! My hero name was Lariat, not Octoman.
I always thought you were just confused. The Lariat name never made much sense to me.
Lariat is a rope that's used as a lasso.
It is? Wait, really? I always thought it was some type of rock.
You thought I named myself after a rock.
I don't know. Just figured you saw a rock and thought, that's a cool rock, and named yourself after it.
Of all of the...
I mean, Lariat isn't much better.
That's it. I'm about to go full eldritchy on your language.
+1. A week after the battle at Jaku, Class 1A woke up to find letters left at everyone's doors, and Midoriya missing. Each letter was sealed in an envelope, and inside containing singular messages. I don't want to lie to you anymore. I got my power from All Might. All for One and Shigaraki are coming after me. I can't put you in danger. I'm sorry.
That stupid nerd!
Bakugo yelled, ripping his letter into shreds.
What does that idiot think he's doing?
In the comment room, members of 1A looked up, their faces creased in frowns and drying tear tracks on their faces. Wait, Bakugo? Ashido said between sniffles. You knew?
Of course I did! I've been living with that idiot for years. You don't think I wouldn't have noticed if he suddenly got some type of new power?
Wait, is that why he's so... Yaoyorozu hesitated. Odd? The whole debate around Eldritch or Haunted was actually about this one for all?
Yes!
Bakugo roared. But he's obviously Eldritch, Todoroki said, looking up from his letter. How else could a power like this exist?
You mean Haunted?
What he is, Uraraka yelled, is a dummy! The class turned towards her. Uraraka wiped at her eyes. Deku is a dummy! It doesn't matter if he's haunted or eldritch or has some power. He is our friend, and we are not going to let him be out there all alone.
You're right,
Sato said, nodding his head.
We are not actually Team Haunted or Team Eldritch,
declared Ida.
But we are all Team Midoriya.
Yeah! The class cheered. So let's bring him home! Uraraka yelled. Team Midoriya! Class 1A cheered as they stampeded towards the door to demand where and how to find Midoriya. As they jogged along, Todoroki leaned towards Uraraka. You know he's still Eldritch, right? Uraraka shrugged. Haunted or Eldritch, Deku is still Deku. And that's what really matters.
Ah, yes. I love Eldritch Haunted Deku Fix with the ghosts being insane and all of this. I love it. This was so good. And it had, like, feels at the end. But okay. So those periods where it's just like, I'm not telling you who's speaking. It's just a bunch of voices and it's the ghosts being shenanigans. There are no names. I had to just guess who maybe could be speaking. And it is so fun to read and just, like, try to work out who it could be, but it was terrible to try to podfic it because I'm not good at their voices to begin with. We hear them speak like a handful of times. I can barely get Class 1A's voices right sometimes. But that was difficult. But this was a really, really fun fic, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a hot second since I did like an Eldritch Deku thing. That was like at the beginning of my channel, but I love these. These are really good. Bye. See you next time.